Kuzampola, I'm Tshoki and I'll be the host for Bhutan Dialogues today. Bhutan Dialogues, as always, is an initiative by the Loden Foundation to promote discussions on crucial issues, essentially to get us to think real hard on things that collectively impact us all. And we truly believe that these are not just mere conversations, but it also serves as a catalyst for bringing about meaningful change through collectively contemplating on problems as well as potential solutions. Now, this month has been quite an eventful month for all of us. We experienced a beautiful National Day yesterday. I don't think there was a dry eye in the stadium. But getting back to the conversation, so by December, we know that we completed the primary elections, and we now have the big show on the general elections just on the horizon. And in a democratic society, we know that we often emphasize this vital role that media plays in being a vigilant watchdog. And this comparison, I suppose it signifies more than a casual observation. It highlights the inherent accountability and the watchful role the media plays in not only keeping the public informed, but also in safeguarding the democratic principles that we hold dear. So in such a situation, as we transition ourselves to this next generation of democratic governance, as we transition or prepare ourselves for this next set of democratic leadership, we only found it fitting to have the theme for the month of December on the media. And today, our discussion is going to be on the crucial role media plays in general, and also its relationship in technology in particular. And we have to speak on media, the wonderful Needrup Zangpo sir. And when I requested sir to share his bio, he sent some 3 sentences outlining his achievements. But we know that I think his achievements, it goes beyond the 3 sentences. These 3 sentences barely scratches the surface of this enormous contribution that you have made to the field of journalism. So Needrup Zangpo sir, as we all know, currently is the Executive Director of Bhutan Media Foundation. He, years earlier, he embarked on his professional journey as a civil servant. And later on, I think his trajectory pivoted with this role as an editor in Bhutan Observer. He also worked still works as a writing and editing consultant for numerous both national and international agencies. And he's also the founding executive director of this very important agency, which is the Journal Association of Bhutan. Now, back in college, you were dedicated, also wanted to share that you were a dedicated English literature and a media student, and you also have your interest in culture and history of Bhutan. So over the course of time, Needrup sir has consistently played a significant role in advancing this media development in the country. And what I can say with much conviction is that the contributions definitely surpasses this super humble outline that you've shared across those 3 sentences. With that introduction, let us now begin the conversation. And perhaps to break the ice, we'll start with something personal. And perhaps by looking back in your early days when you were a child or when you were studying, we just perhaps would like to know whether you had a mentor, or in Gen Z lingo, we call it an influencer. Did you have an influencer in your life? Or, you know, who was the biggest influence in your life so far? So perhaps you could start with that personal question. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Loden Foundation, and I'm Tshoki for inviting me to this dialogue. And thank you for a very generous introduction. My achievement in life does not even deserve 3 lines. Thank you. And I'm very, very delighted to be part of this dialogue. I come from Eastern Bhutan. I came to Thimphu only after my graduation from Sheraptu College, then the only college in the country. I studied English and Indian literature in college. As a literature student, I wanted to be part of the Bhutanese media, but then with only few graduates in the country, the civil service was far too attractive for me, so I ended up joining the civil service of Bhutan. After working in the civil service for 4 years, the media in the country was privatized in 2006 in preparation for the first parliamentary democracy, parliamentary elections in the country in 2008. So I thought the media would be far more exciting than civil service. So I resigned from the civil service to join the Bhutan Observer newspaper. And in terms of influences, maybe I would start this way. I started listening to the BBC radio, and I still do, since my high school days. And in my college, I read up all the editorials of Quinsel since it started, all the editorials available in the college library. Then Sharapsi College has the richest library in the country, and the editorials amounted to volumes. I read up during my free times all the editorials. So BBC radio and my reading of Quinsel editorials made me realize how influential, how powerful media can be, how much media can contribute to national conversation, national dialogue, and how media can contribute to building a national consciousness. Therefore, I think BBC radio is one of my influences in life, and of course, Quinsel.
Thank you so much. I think there's also one motivation that you actually mentioned, and that is yourself. It's the self-discipline that you ended up reading all the editorials that was available in Sharapsi library. So that also comes with the sense of discipline, and that itself, it's yourself. Again, going a bit further on your professional journey in the media industry, we would like to know that over time, what is the favorite thing that has actually kept you motivated, at least in the field, for me now, since you've worked in the media for so many years? So what is that one thing that have actually kept you? Is it the same reason that you mentioned earlier, that it is a very powerful voice, it provides a lot of influence on societal mindset and behavior, or are there other things that's keeping you in the media industry?
I think it's more or less the same reason that keeps me motivated, that keeps me working in the media. And working in the media can often seem a thankless job, particularly given the challenges the journalists and editors face on a day-to-day basis, including you being berated, sometimes harassed for doing a job. But the motivation comes in the form of people who really, genuinely appreciate your work. And motivation also comes in the form of the impact what you do makes in the society. For example, when I was in Bhutan Observer, we did a small story about a very hardworking, innovative farmer in a remote village in Pemakatsal. And that story led to that farmer, very inspirational farmer, being awarded the National Order of Merit Gold by His Majesty in Thimphu at a National Day celebration. So small impacts like these make you motivated to work harder. And we have so many stories like this, small impacts we're able to make. But of course, our stories also put a lot of people in trouble. That is also part of our motivation, because as part of a small society, fast democratizing, I think being able to put people in trouble is also part of our motivation.
Thank you. Let us just dig deeper into, because you've already mentioned that sometimes you'd get harassed for doing your job. So I see that there are like different levels of challenges for a reporter or any media professional. So what are if you could outline some of the key challenges that are, of course, very systemic, like institutional, and some that are very personal at an individual level?
At personal level, for journalists in Bhutan, I think because we're a very small, close-knit society, that poses a big challenge for journalists. Because the half of the society could be related to you, and another half related to your wife. In a small society, that's a big challenge, because at the end of the day, you have to keep depending on other people. So we do not want to hurt the sentiments of other people. At personal level, this is a big challenge. You don't want to be outright very tough on people. At the professional level, we have a few big challenges, including access to information. It's a big challenge in Bhutan. We have recently done a survey called State of Journalism in Bhutan. This survey gives us some very good information on the state of journalism in Bhutan. 64% of journalists in Bhutan think that public officials are unlikely or highly unlikely to share information with them. Only 4% of the journalists in Bhutan think that public officials are likely to share information with them. So this shows that access to information is a big challenge. And second challenge is professional development. It's a big challenge. Newsrooms in Bhutan are shifting every year. Every year we have senior reporters resigning, and replacing them, we have a new crop of reporters who needs basic journalism training. According to the same journalism survey, only 77% of journalists in Bhutan have received basic journalism training. I say only 77. We might see 77% as a high percentage. But every journalist in the country must receive at least basic journalism training. Only 35% of journalists in Bhutan have so far received specialized training, meaning climate change reporting training, women and children reporting training, CSO reporting training, etc. So 77% have basic journalism training, which means we have a long way to go. This is another big challenge. And the third challenge, I think, is the financial situation of media houses in Bhutan. And this situation gives our colleagues in the media a lot of stress. There's a sense of insecurity. That's why they tend to leave. They tend to leave for greener pastures once they gain some experience. So that's why over the years we have lost a lot of good, talented journalists.
Thank you. Very interesting, this concrete three challenges. I mean, firstly on the access to information, then the lack of capacity development, and lastly, the financial situation of the media houses. But perhaps we again question or dig a bit deeper onto in terms of the access to information, and especially on that alarming statistic that you mentioned. So what is the solution then? Because we know that now, based on the study, that a lot of civil servants or public officials are unlikely to share information. So what is the solution for it? Is it awareness? Is it because of the awareness, or is it that the information itself is just too sensitive? What do you think is the root causes of such a statistic?
I do not have an answer for this statistically, but we have identified some root causes for example, difficulty in accessing public information. One, of course, is the way our civil service is structured. RCSC has BCSR, Bhutan Civil Service Rules and Regulations, which discourages our civil servants from first criticizing publicly about government policies. And this is a big challenge. So therefore, our civil servants are not readily available to interact with the media. So we need to fix this, because public information belongs to the public. It doesn't belong to RCC, it doesn't belong to any other government agency. So we need well-rounded information for journalists. Well-rounded meaning information as a full package. So if you give small information bits and pieces, journalists are not able to make sense of that, and therefore they tend to misinterpret those pieces of information. Now, if our public officers are willing to give well-rounded information to journalists, there won't be misinterpretation, misinformation. Therefore, our colleagues will be able to do a better job, and well-rounded information will lead to well-rounded public decisions, and well-rounded public decisions will lead to better society, more enlightened society.
I completely agree with you, Needrup sir. But again, just one more point on that. Sometimes there are incidents where we have to really cover potentially distressing situations and episodes. Sometimes in certain situations, one might also argue that restrictions are necessary for the national security. How do you view this delicate balance between, okay, we need access to the entire, ABC of the situation, as opposed to, okay, there must be some sensitivities, some confidentialities across information that might pertain to national security. So how do you balance that?
Well, that's a very good question, and a difficult question to answer, because this is not black and white. Now, when it comes to this area of journalism, then we enter the ethical, responsible reporting area. So the answer is not going to be straightforward, black and white. National interest is one thing, but it's quite tricky. How do we define national interest? It's very subjective. What journalists perceive as national interest, the government will perceive differently. What government perceives as national interest, the journalists will perceive quite differently. When it comes to national security, yes, there's no two ways about it. It's straightforward. The journalists and government, the people, everybody will have to work on the same wavelength.
Okay. So there is a lot of gray area, and what's required is a lot of consensus that needs to be drawn between the media and the public officials.
Yes.
So that would be like the next step. Okay, you mentioned this lack of capacity amongst the media professional as one of the deterrent effect. And I think there was this recent Kinsel article, and one of the researchers from Center for Bhutan and GNS Studies had covered about this attrition rate in the media sector. And it's quite high, it's about nearly 40%, and it's not getting replaced. So what happens then from your point of view? What is the potential scenario, in the next few years, if the media personnel are increasing by this alarming rate? Then what would happen to the deliberations, to the democratic discourses that's very pertinent for our country?
I think for a fairly new media landscape in Bhutan, I think the attrition rate is quite alarming. We do not know the exact reasons why there's a high attrition, but we keep making some assumptions. One reason why journalists leave newsrooms at this high rate is that media houses are not doing financially well. Therefore, they have this constant, very acute sense of insecurity. I better go for a greener pasture before my newsroom closes down. This is one sense of insecurity that forces journalists to look for greener pastures. And another reason we think is journalism is very, very demanding on you, physically as well as psychologically. Psychologically, I mentioned earlier that your job can be often thankless, that you work very hard, but you get berated, you get scolded, sometimes you can be harassed by people for doing a job. And journalists work for long hours, starting from 8:30 or 9 in the morning till 11:30, 12 in the evening. That was physically very demanding, psychological demanding. So as journalists gain some experience, they tend to leave. So the implication of this is that for a very young democracy and young media, I think this will have a professional impact. So shifting newsrooms impact the quality of journalism, professionalism. Therefore, these days people keep saying our media are not professional enough, but we need more planning, more support from different quarters to make media more professional.
And the final challenge that you mentioned, that the financial situation of media houses, could you help deliberate more on this?
Okay, this is perhaps the biggest challenge facing the Bhutanese media. Since the privatization of the media in 2006, there was a brief boom in media. From 2006 to 2009, 10, 11, we had, in fact, a big boom in media. By 2012, there were 12 newspapers, 2 news magazines, and several radio stations. Here, in this conversation, we will mostly exclude BBS, because BBS is fully subsidized by the government, so they don't face financial challenges like other media houses. We'll mostly talk about newspapers. So by 2012, we had 12 newspapers, 2 news magazines, several radio stations. After 2012, 5 newspapers have closed down, 2 news magazines have closed down, 3 radio stations have closed down. Today we are down to 7 newspapers, and these 7 newspapers are mere shadows of their former selves. For example, Bhutan Times used to be 97 staff strong. Today, it is down to 6 staff. Bhutan Observer, between 2009 and 10, Bhutan Observer was 67 staff strong. Today, it's no more. So, our media houses have become very, very small today and very weak. So this is, I think, the weakest media today is the weakest democratic link in the country.
That's very unfortunate. But the thing is, we are like 700,000 of us. It's a very small population. And when you said that the financial sustainability of this 12 media houses, is it supposed to be 12 media houses? I mean, for 700,000 of us, perhaps because one of the ways of earning money for media houses is through advertisements. And when you have a lot of media houses competing for the same pore space, then that also becomes a challenge, and especially with our private sector that's very small and nascent. So do you feel that do you feel that media houses should grow over the time, or what is your thought, whether it should there should be like a minimum number of media houses, because financial sustainability at the end of the day is a core issue, and for a small population like ours, it's always going to be a challenge.
This is a very interesting question. So we will dwell on this for a while. From the start, after the media was privatized in Bhutan in 2006, the royal government of Bhutan adopted what they call liberal licensing policy, meaning they interpreted the constitutional provision on media very liberally. They said there's freedom of media in the country, therefore any Bhutanese who wants to start a media house has the right to start a media house. So anybody who approaches BIGMA with an application is granted a license. Therefore, in the initial years, we had the proliferation of media houses. So 12 newspapers for a small population, even smaller readership. Bhutan is not a reading society, you know that. And Then came social media, and that impacted the traditional media. So 12 newspapers for a small society, small readership, too many. Now, what do you do with that? I can think of two solutions if they work out, but I don't think they will work in the foreseeable future. One is bring the media houses number of newspapers down to 2 or 3 to be sustainable. That's all the Bhutanese market can support. How do I know that? When there were 3 newspapers in the country, Quinsel, Bhutan Times, Bhutan Observer, the media landscape used to be vibrant, robust. That's when Bhutan Times had 97 staff and Observer had 56 staff. Quinsel more than 200, I think. It's down to 120 today. One solution. Can that happen? No. How can the government make that happen? It should have happened a long time back, because the government should have thought about the capacity of the Bhutanese market to support the media houses. Other sectors thought about it. Banking sector thought about it. They put a moratorium on the number of banks. They said 4 banks, 2 private banks, enough. That's all the market can support. And telecom sector, they said there's space for only 2, telecom and Tashicel. That's enough. But media sector keeps saying, bring applications. We will grant you the license to operate media firms. This should have happened a long time back. It didn't happen. Now I do not have an answer how we can make this happen, how we can bring down the number of newspapers to a sustainable number. Second, if this doesn't work out, there's one option. Government can step in with its support. And the Royal Government of Bhutan will not be the first government in the world to do that. In many countries, the government comes in and supports media houses, and they adopt what they call arm's length policy. Government gives media houses money, but they don't interfere in the editorial of the newspapers. So that can happen, but that will depend on the government of the day. The first option looks very unlikely, unworkable. Second option can work out, but how do we frame appropriate policy for that? The government should think about it. Otherwise, the media will remain weak, small, and in the process, the society will lose.
Well, hopefully the media houses, it will thin out based on that, the business model of if it's financially not sustainable, that perhaps we can, I think the best case scenario is to thin out. But you mentioned that now the print media, a lot of people are now transitioning from print media to social media in the digital age. And I'd just like to delve on this topic further, because there was this report on the social media usage in Bhutan, and it was such an alarming rate, because it's currently in Bhutan, on an average, we are on social media about nearly 3 hours in a day. That is above global average, which is about 2 hours. And then there are about 25% of us, we are heavy users. We use social media about 4 to 5 hours in a day. With such, and when we delve into that report, it says that majority of us are there for information, to seek information. So it is like a social media era ongoing in Bhutan, even more so from the rest of the world. In such a situation, how can now social media in Bhutan become a hub for digital news, and what will change as this social media news has emerged? I mean, does it mean that years down the line there's not going to be used for print media? Is that what your thoughts are?
Yes, social media comes as both an opportunity and challenge for the traditional media, meaning TV, radio, and newspapers. It's an opportunity because the traditional media can leverage social media to disseminate their content. challenge because most people are on social media, and traditional media are losing their audiences. So, as you mentioned, according to a study conducted by Bhutan Media Foundation that's called Social Media Landscape of Bhutan, Bhutanese on average use social media much more than people in other countries. A Bhutanese on average uses social media 18 minutes daily more than people in other countries. Is it good? Is it bad? It will depend on how we use it. Are we using social media effectively, responsibly, ethically? If we're doing that, then the more social media we use, the better. But Bhutanese and as well as people in other countries are not known to use social media ethically and responsibly. The experts have found out most of what we publish and consume on social media is rubbish. So how do traditional media adapt to social media? So traditional media have the huge responsibility to take their content on social media. That is where the majority of readers are. So, for example, the Quinsel, Bhutan Times, the journalists, etc., the Bhutanese need to take their content online more and more. And I think our media houses make a lot of investment in creating content, but when it's published online, everything is free. And our media houses need to put up a paywall on their website and release only 1 or 2 stories a week free. Otherwise, people need to pay for good journalism. Otherwise, we will never have good journalism.
Thank you. Again, talking more on the social media news, because it's not only the professional from the media sector or the industry that's actually generating information, it is everyone. So what do you have to say? Because now it's not only the news people working in the news section, it is everyone. It is an 18-year-old teenager who's a student. It's a 34-year civil servant. So everybody is producing some form of information. So what is then required? What kind of awareness is required? Should we be doing that, generating information, or should we leave it, again, to the media professionals?
No, everybody has the right to create content, consume content, but everybody needs to do that ethically and responsibly. And responsibility means not just creating very scholarly content. Responsibility means even if you write a sentence on Facebook, do it correctly, grammatically correct. That will do a lot of service to thousands of young people using social media. Now, in the age of social media, traditional media and traditional journalism becomes even more important, I think, because traditional media has the gatekeeping process, mostly trained people, and traditional media articles carry a byline. Byline, by the way, is a name of the reporter that appears just below the title of the story. That's byline. Byline means responsibility. If you make mistakes, you are accountable. So traditional media have bylines, there's editorial process, gatekeeping process, there's an editor, there's a CEO, everybody is accountable. But on social media, nobody is accountable. And there's no institutional framework on social media. And everybody tends to be journalists. And a few decades back, there were some people who were saying, now we don't need any journalists. We can create our own content, we can consume our own content. But what happens is most of the content created by non-professionals happen to be rubbish. So that's where the importance of traditional media comes in again.
Let me pick on that line that everybody can become a journalist given the technology. So we have this influx of AI tools that has become assistants overnight, whether you want to write, whether you want to edit, whether you want to create contents, when you want to innovate. So there's like plethora of AI tools there, especially for media professionals. So what are your thoughts on it? Should journalists now leverage on those tools? And do you leverage on any of the AI tools?
This AI is an interesting technological tool that media can leverage. It is not a new phenomenon, I think, although we have come to realize about its power and importance only after ChatGPT. In 2019, during the British general election, the BBC produced 689 stories through a computer. Computer generated 689 stories in that year, all written by computer with the aid of AI. So why not? Mm-hmm. BBC did that. BBC showed us the way, and BBC fed all the information to a computer. Computer did all the writing. Our media houses can take advantage of AI. AI like ChatGPT, Google Bard can help us improve our writing, edit our writings, but there's risks to that. If you're not able to use it properly, then the whole of your tone can be changed. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Your writing style can be changed. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Your house style will be changed by AI. Mm-hmm. That's why there's something called prompt. Mm-hmm. There's something called prompt engineering. And there's a new profession called prompt engineers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There are people
just making a living.
Making a living out of that. People gaining expertise in that area, prompt engineering, which is basically how you ask, for example, ChatGPT or Google Bard to give you information. If you're not skillful with prompt engineering, then you might end up spoiling your writing.
Yeah. Thank you. I always believe, and this is something hardwired in my brain as well, that we will not be replaced by AI, but we'll definitely be replaced by people who leverage on AI. So the more we leverage, that's where our expertise grows. And that's something not only in the media field, but in any, whether it's medical, engineering, construction. So AI is everywhere, right? Now, with this, perhaps we open for questions from the audience, whether it's in person or online. If you have, if not, then I can continue with mine. Do you have questions?
I have one.
Yeah? You want to read that out? Yeah.
How might Bhutanese society shift its focus from viral, less educational content to more meaningful educational material, and what strategies could encourage this transition while considering their current preferences and consumption habits?
Interesting. I don't know if I understood the question correctly, but how might Bhutan shift our focus from more viral, less professional content to more professional content? I think the bottom line, I think, is education and media literacy. Our people need to be educated to create more professional content. They need to be more careful, responsible, ethical. Even if it's just one line Facebook post, it needs to be grammatically correct. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, social media content creators do a lot of disservice. It's not just about writing, it's about what you put up on social media. For example, research in the West has found out that no social media content is innocuous or innocent. Mm-hmm. Every social media content has impact on content consumers. For example, If some people have this habit of posting a picture from Paro airport every time they fly out or every time they fly into Bhutan, that has quite a big psychological impact on consumers, particularly ones who are not fortunate enough to fly out and in like them. Imagine someone flies to Bangkok, Philippines, or the UK, elsewhere, 2 times in a month, and his classmate is stuck somewhere in Mongar for 10 years, 15 years. So, as a human being, he keeps comparing himself with friends, classmates, people surrounding him. So, research says that has huge psychological impact. And food feasts, pictures of food that people put on social media, food feasts, are also known to have big psychological impact on content consumers on social media. Therefore, responsible content creation means not putting too many airport selfies, not putting too many food feasts on social media, particularly if it's from Hotel Taj or Le Méridien or big hotels, because not everybody affords to go there. Not everybody is fortunate as like you. Therefore, such content need to be carefully thought about.
Thank you. I think
So bottom line is education and literacy.
It's a very important point of how social media is affecting behavioral changes, affecting your mental health, and there's a huge literature out there. And as you mentioned, yes, at the end, the solution is education, literacy, and awareness. But a lot of times, again, this is something from a personal point of view, knowledge does not lead to behavioral change. We know a lot of things. We're not supposed to drink, we're not supposed to smoke, but sometimes this knowledge does not translate into effective behavioral change. That's expected, right? It often happens, and it's very natural. So sometimes then comes the role of the government or institutions that have the power and authority. So sometimes it's better to perhaps man social media contents. What do you think? Should we censor? Should there be somebody that's actually controlling what kind of contents are being created? Sometimes, as you mentioned, they are affecting a lot of adults, but I'm a mother of 2 children, and it's also affecting our children. So do you think there should be some authority that's also trying to kind of man in a very liberative way some of the contents that is being produced online by Bhutanese? As well as, again, the same question I'd like to hear in terms of print media. Should we censor some of this stuff that's being generated? Or is that like a big no coming from a journalist point of view?
No. We need to be open to all kinds of policies, regulations, censorship, if it helps improve the media content. But when it comes to censorship, we need to be very careful. First, I keep saying education and media literacy because it is found to be most effective. It doesn't intrude into personal freedom, so education, literacy. But if it doesn't work, then some form of regulation is necessary, moderation is necessary. Let me give you this example, very interesting example. 2 years back, the Norwegian parliament enacted a law which requires social media influencers to explain if they posted a picture on social media, picture that is doctored, picture that is photoshopped, improved, they need to explain on social media what they have done to the picture they have posted. That is to say that if a social media influencer, let's say an actor, has made herself fairer than she actually is, slimmer than she actually is. She needs to explain, I've used Photoshop software to improve my picture. In the picture, I'm fairer than I actually am, and so on. If she doesn't do that, under Norwegian law, she can be punished. So regulations like this can be very, very helpful. But bottom line, I think, is education and literacy.
Again, talking about...
And print media, you
Yeah,
said.
yes. On the print media, should there be censorship? Should there be some form of regulation on what's being published?
Yes, of course. We already have a lot of regulations.
So it's about reducing
yes,
those.
it's about improving the regulations. Compared to social media, traditional media are more manageable, more controllable, because there is a hierarchy, there is a mechanism in place, there is gatekeeping process, there are real people, editors and reporters, real people with real bylines. In social media, there are anonymous people, we do not know who is who, and we do not have real, genuine names, we do not have real pictures. That's why social media ethics starts from putting up a genuine, authentic looking picture of yours as your profile picture. If you're keeping a picture of a flower, picture of a cat or a dog, your favorite cat or your favorite dog, as your profile picture, you're violating social media ethics. We need to start from this basic level.
Thank you. Yeah.
Your name, your profile picture, and your bio, where you work, where you're from, what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. We are kind of, as Elon Musk once said, that we are cyborgs. Social media is an extension of ourselves.
Yes.
Right? So we already have a related personalities on virtually, and how do we present there has to be actually part of a curriculum in education.
I use very interesting phrase. Social media is an extension of ourselves.
Yes.
That's extension of our real life. In real life, we living in Thimphu, do not walk down the Northern Lam announcing what we ate for breakfast. No, la.
Yeah.
But on social media, we do. The moment we put a food fee on social media, we are announcing to the world, a nice breakfast in La Meridian with my old friend.
Yes.
You announce to the world.
Very strange.
So, our real life and our social media presence are not consistent. We need to be the same people on social media and in real life. Humble, well-meaning, courteous. Bhutanese are mostly courteous, kind, genuine. But on social media, we become totally different people, right?
Yes, true.
So that's real life and virtual life not consistent with each other. So this is also part of social media literacy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's very insightful. Just wanted to share that in the World Press Freedom Index, Bhutan has actually dropped down, right? About 57 places to 90th. Initially, it used to be about 33rd last year. It's really dropped down, and that actually speaks volumes about whether the regulations that we discussed earlier, that whether they should be now leaned out or whether it should be improved further. What are your thoughts? The press freedom, because that's also one of the key challenges that was mentioned in one of the earlier reports. Whether is it okay as it is? Because as you mentioned, there are a lot of regulations already in place. In what field should we actually, if there is improvisation required, then which aspect is it that you're thinking of?
On the press freedom ranking, as you said, Bhutan dropped 57 places from
yes.
2002 to 2003. 57 places to 90th position, right?
2022 to 2023.
Yes, from 2022 to 2023. And the reason the Reporters Without Borders gave include the high level of self-censorship, which is true. The media's heavy dependence on the government, which is also true. And the constitution of BICMA, that's fully run by government officials, that's also there. But I think we need to take the press freedom rankings of Reporters Without Borders with a pinch of salt, I think. Their rankings seem to be sometimes fickle. For example, from 2021 to 2022, our press freedom ranking increased by 32 places. From 65th position to 33rd position. Even as nothing changed in Bhutan. For a politically stable society, it takes a lot of government policies, regulations to change things drastically. In that year, nothing changed, but our press freedom ranking went up by 32 places. And that time I said, Bhutanese should not be too excited or too disappointed with press freedom rankings. I don't know. They have a big system. They have questionnaires. They send out questions to journalists and different professionals. But I don't know how they finally compute the rankings. But the rankings seem to be quite fickle and sometimes very hard to believe. Jumping 32 places up and jumping 57 places down. We should not be too disappointed or too excited about this.
Thank you so much for the clarification. I think I understand, because a lot of times the data can be questionable, the kind of data that they collect, the kind of sample that they have referred to for the data collection can also be something that could be questioned. So there are always errors that might take place in computation of such indices. Now, again, circling back to what you mentioned about self-censorship. So there's this article again by one of the researchers here in Bhutan, and they find that about nearly 90% of the media professionals, they self-censor themselves. Could you please explain to us what self-censorship means? Is it a good practice, or is it something that needs to be shunned?
Okay, here there are a few questions within that question. First, censorship generally. Censorship, I don't know from which research this data comes from, but according to...
It's from a CBS researcher, so they have made it public, the research findings, and it's on self-censorship.
Okay, self-censorship.
Self-censorship.
First, there's external censorship. That's pressure that journalists get from different quarters. External censorship. There's something called self-censorship. Self-censorship is self-imposed censorship. And according to the State of Journalism study, which is not publicly out, by the way, now 33% of Bhutanese journalists feel that they're subjected to external censorship. 33% of journalists. And self-censorship is very high. 59% of journalists in Bhutan say they practice self-censorship sometimes. And 25% of journalists say they practice self-censorship regularly, often. So 25% of journalists practice self-censorship. So this is quite alarming. Now, is self-censorship good or bad? It will depend on how you interpret it. It's mostly bad if journalists are limiting themselves so much, they won't be able to do their job. But sometimes self-censorship can be helpful for a small society, close-knit society. Self-censoring is filtering out information, right? making your gatekeeping process a little more rigid. For a small society, people are being careful. Sometimes it helps for national unity. In terms of national unity, in terms of national security, self-censorship can be helpful. For example, when during the Doklam episode, Bhutanese media self-censored themselves so much, nothing came out in the media. And probably that, I think, helped. Because there was no information at all on Doklam issue, except in Indian media and Chinese media and the foreign Western media. The Bhutanese media didn't get any information. And the thumb rule for the media is that if you do not have any information, don't try to do a story. So Bhutanese media did exactly that. They didn't write any story. Probably that helped. If we tried to do stories on Doklam issue, we could have ended up displeasing either of our neighbors, which would not be good for the country and our relations with the neighbors. So in cases like this, self-censorship helps. But in most other cases, self-censorship can be unprofessional, can limit the role of journalism.
Thank you so much. At this point of time, perhaps should we go in and check if there are any questions online? No, not. Let's.
Thank you for the opportunity. I have two questions here. The first one being, do you feel that the Buddhist media houses are doing justice, bringing up good stories on Buddhist democracy? This is the first question. Other one, your thoughts on the Right to Information Act. Because the discussion is turning over the right to information. Journalists not getting information at the right time. So what is your take on the Right to Information Act? And as a Bhutanese media firms, do we bring true democracy, the stories? Because these days we see only hide and seek stories on the front line, every press release or on the stories coming up from our media houses. Thank you.
Yes, very interesting questions. First, are the Bhutanese media doing justice to our democracy? Very difficult question. I wouldn't have an answer to this, but you as a media observer, you as a reader would have a better idea. Are we doing justice? From my personal observation, the Bhutanese media have been trying. We've been trying. Despite all the challenges, including financial challenges, some of our journalists have been doing very hard-hitting investigative stories, sending people to prisons. So we have done fairly good justice to the Bhutanese democracy. So on RTI, I think if we can enact an RTI bill, nothing like it. But again, I must say this, that RTI is not exclusively for the media. RTI is for the whole citizenry. Everybody can take advantage of RTI to get public information. Media can be a small beneficiary of an RTI Act. Again, are we ready for an RTI Act? That will depend on how well prepared our government system is, how well prepared our bureaucracy is. RTI will require our government agencies to classify all kinds of information. This is sensitive, this is not, and then they will have a system. RTI Act will require the government agencies to deliver certain information within certain time period, 3 days. If it's a big chunk of information, sensitive information, it gives 2 weeks, etc. Are we prepared? Do we have a well-documented system? I think our public information is all over the place right now. as far as I know. So I think RTI Act will require our government to be more proactive, and it will be quite a big cost in terms of information archival, information classification, and so on. So if our government is ready, I think it'll be very, very, very helpful for democracy.
Thank you. Do we have any more? Not online as well? No. So yes, I feel RTI is like a next natural step for Bhutan as well. It's just a matter of time where the government gets enough resources to prepare themselves for this very complex classification of information system. We have, I think, over this course of conversation, we have dwelt at length about a lot of challenges that the media professionals are going through. And you have also stated some of the potential solutions, including the one where you said the media houses needs to be thinned out so that it's more vibrant in terms of its discourses and in terms of its activeness. Besides that, what are the key critical, the solutions that we could actually do now so that Bhutan has a very vibrant media sector? What are the 2-3 things that is within our capacity? Again, when I say we, I mean the media sector, what can be done, and also what the government should be doing right now at this moment of time, so that down the line in 5 or 10 or 20 years, we have a very vibrant media sector.
Okay, first, within the media industry, we need to take care of good people, talented people, and these are two sets of people. Good people meaning dedicated, well-intentioned people, talented with skills. So we need to take care of good people and talented people. I don't think our media houses do this adequately for now. And second, the media houses need to be more proactive. They need to go online. They need to transition online as fast as possible. Our media houses have mostly remained traditional. Newspapers have remained newspapers for a long time. They need to transition online. They need to use social media more. They need to do more online journalism, which will need a different set of people. People like me, trained in traditional print journalism, cannot do a good job online. The writing style is different. It needs to be shorter, more crisp, sharper. We need younger people, younger talents. Do we do this? Do we invest in them? We don't do that. And on the part of the government, I think the attitude needs to change a bit. That we need to consider media as a critical sector in a democracy, meaning the media should be considered as important as any democratic institution in the country, as important as Election Commission of Bhutan, as important as the Anti-Corruption Commission of Bhutan, as important as the Attorney General's office, or the constitutional offices. These democratic institutions are fully supported by the state. Media is not. Therefore, I say media is the weakest democratic link in our society. So how does the government support the media? Monetary support, technical support, financial support will go a long way. But how does the government support financially? Government needs to have a policy. Support the media, but keep distance from the media. Otherwise, the whole purpose of supporting the media will be defeated. And we should not defeat that purpose. But our media needs support. And it will be for the larger interest of the society. Otherwise, all of us lose, including the government.
Thank you. Very, very insightful. Amongst the audience, we have a lot of young, aspiring journalists, I see. What would be your advice to them? I mean, for them, at an individual level, what kind of personalities should they be trying to embody or embrace to be a very good journalist or a reporter? I mean, what is your general suggestions as they move on to their journalism career?
I don't know whether I will have any sensible advice for our young colleagues, but from my experience of working in the media, I think first we need to keep calm in the traditional Bhutanese manner. Keep calm, and our spiritual gurus keep telling us that we live in a korwa, meaning things will mostly be unpleasant. Still keep calm, do your job, be dedicated, and second, especially in the media, do not get too excited about things. Do not get too carried away. Our young professionals need to give themselves some time to mature and gain confidence. Without enough maturity and confidence, I think any profession is not secure. I don't mean to say you'll face difficulties, but to do your job well, you need to be secure, you need to be mentally balanced. That comes from a certain degree of maturity, certain degree of confidence, and you need to give yourselves more time to gain maturity and confidence before rushing excitedly. And third, I think you need to keep learning, meaning the best way of learning, I think, is reading. You need to know your trade to do a good job. So keep reading, keep learning every day. So that's how you keep yourselves professional. And from my experience, I think for young people, it's important not to put so much negative spin on things that we tend to interpret things negatively often. That we need to look at the positive side of things. When you putting so much negative spin on things is detrimental to your mental well-being, not good for you. So we need to be relaxed, we need to be calm, interpret things as positively as you can. That doesn't mean you can't be critical. You can be critical, but being overwhelmingly negative is not good for you.
Yeah, it's not good for your mental health.
That's how I learned through the years. I don't know whether it will be applicable for everyone.
It's a lot of wisdom. I think it's applicable across the board. Be positive, be patient, lifelong learning. You be a lifelong student, and of course, do not rush. And that's something that I think it's applicable to everyone, not only to the future journalist here. So I often conclude by asking the speaker some very interesting quote that might have opened up his mind, or some interesting book that you have read that actually changed your perspective, that could actually be recommended to our audience, both in person and online. So would you have one book or any quote or anything that actually changed the way you viewed life and that helped you navigate life?
I cannot recollect a quote, but I remember a book that I read some time back. It's called What Money Can't Buy. I don't remember the full title, What Money Can't Buy, by a Harvard professor called Michael Sandel. What Money Can't Buy. And this book is so profound, and it talks about what money can buy but should not buy. It talks about some of the biggest ethical dilemmas of the century, where we should place more importance on values, ethics. We tend to put everything on sale these days,
Yes.
including our blood,
Yeah, true.
right?
True.
Including some of our precious values. So this book, What Money Can't Buy, talks about all these ethical dilemmas, how things are changing because of market pressures and so on. So I think that book will be a very good read to everyone, particularly in Bhutan, where we're transforming very fast, where money is replacing a lot of things that used to be free.
Thank you so much. It is, what a coincidence. It's also one of my favorite books. And for those who do not want to read, there is actually in BBC channel, that's their website, there is what they call this read lectures that they organize. Yes. And they have actually interviewed Professor Michael Sanders full length, and they have this, it has a huge full reference on the book that Needrup sir mentioned. And it's really a good book where you're really trying to assess whether money should be replacing our values, which is the current trend in the world. Just again, before we close, there was this interesting example in that book where the teachers did this experiment where they said, okay, if the parents, they come to the school late to pick up their children, then they would be fined.
Yes.
And then they did this example before having a fine out and after having this fining system in place. What they found out is when they actually put in this fine, the number of parents, late pickers, parents actually increased. So it actually did not bring in the desired change of, okay, now there's a fine, so I need to pick up my children on time. In fact, it actually lowered, or in some parents, it displaced that value of, punctuality. So it's something that's always close to my heart. I'm just so happy that you mentioned that book. And it's actually a must-read for most, for not only the youth, but also the adults here in Bhutan. We have come to a close, sir. Would you have any final thoughts? Anything that was not covered, but something that you would like to share to the audience, both online and in person?
I don't think I have anything more to share.
All right, thank you. Then perhaps we'll close now. Just a reminder to us all, I guess, that we actually live in this era of information overload, as you mentioned, through social media. And our role as critical contributors as well as consumers of the media is more important as ever. And it's very important at this point of time that we stay engaged, that we actually champion the roles of what Sir Needrup mentioned, champion the values of accuracy, champion the values of transparency and responsible media generation, as well as media consumption. So it is. And I would also like to share what you mentioned, that media is the weakest link in a democratic setting currently for Bhutan. It should not be. So please, and it is our plea that it be as important as Election Commission Bhutan. It be as important as the Anti-Corruption Commission. So that is our sincere prayer. Thank you so much, Needrup sir, for being here, for sharing your time and all this wisdom that you've collected over the years in your field of journalism. Our gratitude also goes out to Thimphu Press Club for this venue. And again, thank you to the audience, both in person and online. And please do continue tuning in. And so until next time, thank you so much for attending.
Thank you.